that's French. Ooh la 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 la.
Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
And I'm Ralph, the man behind the camera.
And today, Ralph, it's quiche a la Cavalcade.
Ooh, can't wait.
So we're going to do a quiche today, and we'll say right from the onset that yes, real men do eat quiche, real women eat quiche, and real men and women even make quiche, and that's what we're going to do.
And loving it.
And love it. So we're going to do quiche a la Cavalcade, and basically and honestly, what it is what did we have on hand that would go together well and make for a nice quiche. Quiche is one of those dishes which we love because it's great at any time of the day. It's great for breakfast, it's great for lunch or brunch, it is wonderful for dinner. We like to serve it with a nice green salad, and it's perfect. And it's so versatile because, Ralph, we can put in it the things that we have on hand and that we like.
That's right.
So it's certainly not limited to, it's really only limited by your imagination. It's not limited to what we have here, but what we do have are bacon, some sauteed onions, some cheese, and some fresh parsley.
Okay.
Okay? And, of course, a quiche is a combination of eggs. I've got 6 of them here. And milk.
Kind of like a custard?
Yeah, exactly. So you want to make sure that your eggs are at room temperature, and your milk is at room temperature. Okay? But before we get to any of that, there's the matter of the crust.
Yes.
Now, the quiche crust that I use is my standard pastry crust. Okay?
So what you would use for a pie?
I would use exactly the same thing, right? I don't make a special... there are many variations on it. So this is a regular pastry crust. I use a pie plate like this, which is sort of what we would call, Ralph, a deep dish. It's a little deeper than, say, a standard pie plate would be.
And I notice it's glass. Does that make a difference?
It is glass. You could use a metal pan,
okay.
Whatever. I actually love baking in glass. I just do. So this is a jadeite glass. We have friends out there who are jadeite collectors. I don't have a lot of jadeite pieces, but I do have this pie plate. But what we have to do is, because what we're going to put in here is going to be very, very wet. It's basically raw eggs and milk and our
ingredients.
Our add-ins. So when you bake this quiche, the crust will have a hard time cooking because it will have all this wet liquid on top of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what they call a blind bake.
What's that?
Okay, we are going to pre-bake the crust. Not quite all the way, but partially.
Oh, so that when you do put the liquids and the wet stuff and all the add-ons, it will... it'll already be halfway there.
Exactly. We're going to give the crust a head start.
I see.
So it's called, it's pre-baking. It's also called blind baking. Different terminology. So what I'm going to do
What's
is...
this called? Tickling the... poking
torturing the pastry. No. This, what we're doing here is...
aerating.
We're going to allow some of the air to come up through the crust so that it doesn't get these big bubbles in it, okay? Because without filling, it could just bubble up. Another insurance that we're going to do is I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper here, Ralph, and I'm going to put it inside the crust, like so.
After poking it with a fork.
Yep. Then, these are my
go-to.
These are actually dried garbanzo beans. There are a thing called
pie weights?
Pie weights, exactly, pastry weights, which are little, they look like marbles, and they're usually made of ceramic or porcelain. And if you have those and want to use them, fine. That's great. If not, you can use dried beans like I'm using.
But you're using them just as a weight, though.
As a weight. By the way, I can't. Once you put these in the oven, they're no good to use. So I just keep them in the drawer, and are in the jar, and I'll just use them again and again for this purpose only. Okay. But what this will do is this will keep the weight.
Keep the bubbles down, too.
Exactly. It will keep that pie. You could use tin foil. I'm using parchment here. All right. So we're going to blind bake the crust for 12 to 15 minutes in a 425 degree oven. So that's going to go in there.
Into the trusty Frigidaire she goes.
Yeah, I like that. Into our 58 Frigidaire. I'll put about 12, 13 minutes on the timer. And in the meantime, I'll start getting some things ready here to make our filling for our quiche a la Cavalcade. So Ralph, the crust has been baking for about 14 minutes. We're going to bring it out. I'm going to set it there. You can see it's starting to brown a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I've reduced the heat of the stove to 325 degrees, okay?
Okay.
Because that's the temperature that the quiche will bake at. So, let's go back to putting our quiche together now. 6 eggs, room temperature.
Just regular large or...
Large eggs. 2 cups of milk. Please don't use skim. We're going to do a little seasoning. We got some salt and pepper to taste. And then, I know you like this, especially with anything custardy. Just a few grates of fresh nutmeg.
Yeah, there's something about just getting the balance right when you're doing a custard. You don't really want to taste the nutmeg
Just that it's
profusely,
in there.
but just a slight subtle touch. It's very delicate.
So now what we want to do is we want to combine very well all of these things. You could use a whisk.
Don't you need to get your garbanzo beans out of there first?
I will. No, not right this second, but I'll get them out.
Okay.
You can use a whisk, or if you have one of these.
Good old-fashioned egg beater.
Here's an egg beater. So I'm sure a lot of you, you might even have one, and if you don't, you might remember your mom or your grandma having one. And actually, this is really, I find these so useful, especially if I'm preparing eggs for an omelet or making scrambled eggs or things like that, because it really does help kind of aerate and whip a lot of air in there, in addition to mixing it. But if you don't have one, just use a whisk. That's fine.
Yeah, those are a great invention. Look at all those bubbles, all that froth. That's a good invention, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And do you remember, you may not, even if you don't, or probably if you do remember your mom or your grandma using it, you might remember being a kid and playing with it in the kitchen, just like
There's, there's something with kids. Anything that has a crank on it.
Oh, you got to turn it.
You got to turn it. There's just something, some attraction. Okay, so we've got our eggs and milk, our seasoning, and now we're going to put in our other stuff. So again, I've got, this was probably, like I said, this was about half of a package of bacon. So
Maybe like 6 strips?
yeah, 6 or 7. There's normally a pound of bacon in there, so call it half a pound.
So fry it up, you dry it out, and then you crumble it.
Mm-hmm. Then I've got some onions that were sauteed in butter and browned. What do you think? Put them all in?
Yeah.
Why not? So that would be, a small onion.
You could also use scallions or
You could.
shallots.
You could. You'd cook that. You'd want to saute the shallots. Scallions you would just put in as is, and that would give a nice green color.
But it is going to bake. I mean, so like if you put it, not that you would, but if you put in something raw like an onion, wouldn't it cook or bake in the?
Yeah, it would. It
But
would
not as
soften up a little bit, but it would still have a little crunch to it. And if that's what you like, go ahead. There's something, when you saute onions, they get sweet. They not only get soft, but the flavor deepens,
Yes.
and the sugars in the onion, they caramelize.
So that's what you're
and
looking
they become
for.
sweet. So that's what we like.
But with the green onion, like you said, you could put that in raw.
And here's something that I learned many years ago when I used to do a lot of big dinners for like 100
groups.
people.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you got time to saute an onion, then you know what? You probably have time to saute 3 or 4. Just use a bigger skillet. And once you have the onion sauteed, use what you want. Put the rest in a airtight container. Put it in the fridge. It'll keep for a few days. If you're not going to use it right away, put it in the freezer. It freezes beautifully. And how nice that you would have sauteed onions at
the ready.
At the ready. It's just a step saver. So I'll often do that. Okay, so now I've got a cup, probably a little more. A good healthy cup, maybe up to a cup and a quarter of the cheese. And then for a little green color, I'm not going to put all this in, but let's sprinkle in some fresh parsley. That always brightens it up, don't you think?
Yeah, you could. It's fun with
Couple
the quiche
tablespoons.
to add some color. Like you could add a red pepper or green pepper, but of course that would change the flavor. And
A little chopped up spinach.
Yeah, spinach quiche is very
great.
popular. But mushrooms are popular in quiches. Like we said, it's up to you and your imagination. But as far as the cheese, you happen to be using a blend of cheddar and Colby Jack.
It's yes, Monterey Jack and cheddar.
So a famous popular cheese would be Gruyere or Swiss.
Swiss
anything.
would be good. Again, it's what you have on hand, so you can make it your own. All right, I'm going to let me get my
Garbanzos
my
out.
garbanzos out of here and back in the jar, and then I'll come back. We'll marry the filling and the pastry and get it in our 325-degree oven for quiche a la Cavalcade.
And while I'm waiting, I'm going to count those beans. We'll have a bean counting contest.
Okay, Ralph. I got the baking beans out of there, and the parchment. You can see that the pastry has, started to cook already. So that's our blind bake. All right, now I'm going to pour this in. I just hope it all fits. Should. Okay. And it will puff up a little bit, as eggs do. Again, lowered the oven is at 325 degrees. The pie plate's still warm, so I'm going to put it right in the middle here.
Very carefully.
Carefully.
Because it's so wet.
As not to spill. And we will let it go 35 to 40 minutes or until it's set. So Ralph, it's been 40 minutes, and I checked it at 35. I didn't think it was quite ready yet.
So how do you test it? With a toothpick?
I take a paring knife here, and we put it in the center.
Oh, and
and
it
if
comes out clean.
clean. So you don't want to cook this so that you don't want a dry quiche, but you don't want it. It should not be wet on the inside. It should just be set.
So it was every bit of 40 minutes it took.
Yes, and if you give it a little jiggle, it should jiggle, but it shouldn't wiggle. Does that makes any sense?
No, it doesn't, but I know
anyway,
what you mean.
You can tell it is set. Now it's puffed up, and that's fine. As it cools, it will deflate, and go back down. And unfortunately, that's what we have to do and wait for it to cool down. It is way too hot to cut.
Sometimes that's the hardest part, is waiting for it, because you can. It fills the whole room with this wonderful aroma.
But what's nice, it's beautiful. It's lightly browned on the top. Of course, you see the pastry continued to cook around the edge as it went back into the oven. Some of that parsley, which was floating on the top, is just baked in right below the surface. I can see the bacon. I can see little flecks of onion. And, just smells so good. But they say good things come to those who wait.
So how long should we have to wait?
Well, we need to wait a good probably 15 or 20 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
I can do it if you can.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ralph, it has cooled down a bit.
We've waited a painfully long 15 minutes.
Yeah. You can see how it's deflated.
Yes.
Okay. But it's still plenty warm, but we're going to, for time's sake, we're going to cut into this, okay? And try our quiche.
A la Cavalcade.
So I'm going to just do a little wedge here. Get through. And again, they make quiche pans. Whoop. Got a little piece there that didn't come out, but that's okay. You know what? No one's the wiser.
Well, it gives us an opportunity to see all the good stuff inside too, and
so
show,
yeah, let's show
that it was a good bake.
Let's take a look at that. See, I don't know if you can tell. It's got still a little bit of moisture in it, but
the part that broke
nice
off really
fluffy.
Really shows the fillings,
see that? Yeah,
the cheese and the. Whoa, yeah.
And look at the crust, how nicely it's done on the underside.
Yes.
Nice and brown, flaky. I can smell the bacon, that smoky. Melts in your mouth. Delicious.
You're getting the eggy custardiness of it too? Good.
Yeah. The onion, of course the smokiness of the bacon.
A touch of the nutmeg? Not so you'd notice?
Not so that you'd notice it, but...
And the cheese, of course.
I've had a piece of bacon.
Oh, that's maybe overpowering?
In about every piece. But...
So it's a bacon-heavy quiche, this quiche a la
you're gonna
Cavalcade.
Like this, Ralph. Yeah, and the thing about quiche is, of course you can serve it... Oh, you know what I thought I would do?
Sprinkle a little parsley.
A little fresh parsley, huh? We'll garnish with a little parsley. That brightens it up nicely, since we have it.
Oh, that looks great, yeah.
And but you can serve it warm like this, obviously, or you know what? It's good at room temperature also.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about quiche. And like we said, use your imagination. You probably have heard of quiches with broccoli and
the classics like quiche Lorraine,
mushroom quiche, and
spinach, and
they're not just little appetizers for parties and hors d'oeuvres. You can make a whole big one.
I think for a lot of people, that's what they think of, those
tiny little appetizers.
Frozen appetizers they sell, those mini quiche. This is
maxi quiche, right?
Totally. And it actually is much. It's hard. You can't really compare the two in terms of texture and flavor. And this is a meal. Like I said, you serve this with a salad on the side, you're good to go. So, we're going to be good to go over to the table and enjoy our quiche for dinner. But you know what? We are just glad that you could spend some time with us with this recipe. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you for subscribing.
We hope you're all well in the new year.
And we hope, yes, your 2021 is off to a good start. And we're going to look forward to seeing you again real soon, right here on Cavalcade of Food. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Happy New Year.